Phil.
Are you listening? Damn.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another Race to 100. I'm your co-host, Rick Storsell.
And I'm your co-host, Neil Batang. Thank you guys for tuning in.
And today we are on episode number 15 now.
Are we 15? Episode 15?
We're 15.
How you doing, man?
Man, this is good. I'm having fun with this.
Yeah, doing your thing?
Doing your thing.
I mean, outside of Race to 100, like personally.
Personally?
Yeah.
I'm hanging in there,
You're
man.
hanging in there?
Hanging in there. How about you?
Life is good. I can't complain. The summer is upon us. I have some trips planned.
Despite the fact that it's like 30 degrees in Chicago.
This weather's terrible,
Oh my
man.
God. It's never gonna warm up.
Mother Nature's inconsistent.
The fact that
She's
we're
emotional.
wearing long sleeves right now,
Yeah.
and it's
Supposed to be the
mid-May.
spring.
Yeah,
But,
unbelievable. So today, we are going to be talking about blackface. And this is something that started in about the 1800s or so. It was along the lines of the minstrel tradition, where there weren't really black actors in a lot of these minstrel performances, and so they would dress white actors up in, normally it was like burnt cork or shoe polish that later on that they'd put on their face, and pretend to be the what they called the happy Negro.
Got it. So I guess what he's trying to say is whenever, like, in the media, whenever they needed someone to portray a black figure, they would take a white actor and paint their skin black.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this was very common practice, and this was before television, before media and all of that, and it was just one of those things that was done to try and portray a caricature of a minority group.
Yeah.
So this is something that continued on for the next 200 years or so. It didn't start to fade away until about the 1970s or so is when it became a little more taboo. And this is something that didn't just happen in the U.S. That's important to know.
Like during the Civil Rights Movement is when it became
During the Civil Rights Movement, but this happened across the globe.
Yeah.
There tended to be a global shift around the 70s where people started to be a little more sensitive about what blackface meant and how it was being interpreted by everyone and how it was denigrating the African community at large. So, but specifically in the U.S., that was something where it had this added layer of controversy because of the history of slavery and segregation and racism and all of that. So, it ended up phasing out of popular culture. It ended up appearing a couple of times in the late 70s, I believe. People tried to use blackface in a couple of TV productions, movie productions, but those were met with some pretty heavy resistance and tended to fade out. So it was seen as a taboo in mainstream culture for the most part in the early 80s or so. So it more or less disappeared.
And now it's just a common practice in the 21st century.
You know,
college campuses.
It hasn't disappeared, and it reappears in college campuses now.
Yeah.
That is probably the biggest place where you will see blackface make a reemergence, and it causes a lot of controversy because it's something that is very controversial.
Yeah.
Because the legacy that is imbued within it, there's a lot of bad historical connotations.
Did you ever encounter any of that in school, graduate school, undergraduate?
No, that was not something that I ever had personal experience with. And
But do you know of anything happening? Maybe you weren't like at a blackface party, but do you know of anything like happening like while you were there? Like, did you?
There was never anyone who had blackface, and for the most part, for major universities, that is something that's not. There was never blackface at Marquette, was there?
Let me tell you, even in high school, even good old Glenbard West, shout out to Glenbard West, there was never any blackface parties, but I never went to but they would have white kids typically would have what you call ghetto parties.
Okay.
So the point of these parties were for a bunch of affluent white kids to come together in a party setting and convey their hoodness, if that's even a word,
and
amongst each other.
And it was done mockingly, right?
Mockingly. I don't know if it was out of an appreciation for the culture, out of mocking it, out of both. I don't know. But that's what they were doing. Like, I would get text messages from girls that I knew, like, do you own a do-rag? And I would just send them back the question, like, why? Like, no, seriously, that would happen. Oh, at Marquette, that happened at Glenbard West a few times too. as well. But again,
Now that you mention it,
I never went to those parties, so I don't know exactly what happened. I mean, but who knows? For all intents and purposes, people might have been painting their faces
in larger
at
campuses,
those, they might not call it a blackface party because, as you mentioned earlier, it is most certainly taboo. But
when it gets into the mainstream media,
Yeah.
when the media gets a whiff of
Yeah.
it, then it becomes something that's really a
Yeah.
controversy. It sparks a fire. Because this past year, you had Halloween, Yale University, they had this huge controversy surrounding their Halloween party from 2015, where there was, I think it was a party, I believe, that was encouraging people to dress up in as offensive as of costumes as possible, which included blackface.
yeah,
And you actually had an administrator, her name was Erica, I can't remember her name actually, but she came down, an administrator or the head of a dorm room came down in favor of allowing blackface publicly. She wrote an email saying, stop being so sensitive.
because it goes against their freedom of speech.
Because it's freedom of speech.
Or freedom to express themselves.
And freedom to express yourself. And she's like, well, when your white daughter comes home dressed up as an Indian from a play, you don't get offended, do you? That was their argument.
That was her reprisal.
Yeah. So
it's an interesting thing out there. I kind of just turn my head and ignore people who like to get down like that. It is a common thing, though. It shouldn't be practiced out there, but it's definitely out there.
it's definitely out there.
College campuses need to be more leery of the fact that kids are, mocking African American culture, and the punishment for it should be more severe than.
What do you think the punishment should be for blackface?
I don't know. Make them volunteer in some inner city neighborhood.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Because
a lot of it comes down from a lack of understanding about the culture. Because most of these white people,
due to privilege, which isn't the fault of anyone, but it's just, again, just open your eyes, open your hearts, and open your minds, and just realize that some of the things you do say are offensive and can and will have repercussions for it.
Yeah. And I will acknowledge, too, that especially in college, people like to push the limits a lot. Okay. And it doesn't just take the form of blackface. It can also extend to binge drinking. It can extend to sexual assault. All these sort of things that college kids in the wilds of their life tend to do stupid things. Mm-hmm. And I think that part of being a responsible young adult is to be able to say that's not okay. In whatever form it takes. And it takes a lot of courage. I know that I would have difficulty coming up to a white thug who was dressed in blackface, but somebody's got to say something.
Yeah.
And it starts with the individual. It always starts with the individual.
Yeah, it always starts with one person. So when you guys get a moment, actually, if you're watching us, just feel free to like, comment,
yeah, seriously, just type something down below.
Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think about this particular topic on the blackface issue on college campuses, and how do we solve this problem? How do we alleviate a lot of the issues surrounding this? So thank you guys for tuning in once again. You want to add anything?
We will catch you next time on the Race to 100. Peace.